Right now, LinkedIn is the single biggest opportunity to grow your personal brand and your business. It's where clients, investors, and decision makers are hanging out. And the right posts can land you new leads, a six-figure opportunity, or your dream career. But here's the problem: most people's content doesn't get seen. They pour time into content that gets buried by the algorithm, forgotten within seconds, and the cost is that they lose out on potential opportunities. So if you want your content to consistently reach and engage thousands of people, I'm going to give you the blueprint in this video by breaking down some of the posts that have helped me generate over 2 million views myself. You'll see exactly why they worked, the principles that you can apply to your own content, and how to replicate posts like these to get high engagement on your own content. And no, you don't need to start with a huge audience for this to work. These will work whether you have 500 followers or 50,000. How do I know? Well, I know because over the last 5 years, my team and I have written over 40,000 pieces of content for LinkedIn for execs and entrepreneurs, which has been seen by over 100 million people, have generated £10 million in pipeline opportunities. And some of those clients started with just a few hundred followers. So let me take you behind the scenes and show you exactly why my top 10 performers blew up and how you can apply the principles to get the same results yourself. So I'm going to come into this tool here, which is called Scripe. Now, Scripe is an amazing tool, and what I'm going to show you today is just a fraction of what Scripe is capable of. It can give you inspiration for content, help you actually draft content using AI. It analyzes all of your previous content to get your tone, and you can upload knowledge banks, things like YouTube videos or content calls that you've had with your team or lead magnets that you've produced, and it will create content using your knowledge and your exact tone. What we're going to look at today, though, is actually their analytics feature. And I'm going to show you my top 10 performers so that we can analyze why each one of them worked and break down some of the thinking behind it so that you can start to apply it yourself. So in this view here, I'm in a dashboard of my performers. We're currently set to the last 30 days, and it's got a good summary of how I've been performing over the last 30 days. But if I scroll down to here, what we're actually going to find is a table with my all-time impressions. Now, what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to filter this for impressions, and simply clicking that impressions tab there has now filtered this for the top posts I have ever produced by impressions. Now, obviously, the performance of a piece of content is determined by the goal that you have for that piece of content. So there are plenty of pieces of content I've published that were purely designed to generate leads that might not show up in this board because we're filtering by impressions only. But in this video, we're looking specifically at viral content and how you can create highly engaging content that gets seen by hundreds of thousands of people. So you can see my top performers here. I'm going to dive into some of them, walk through some of the thinking behind them. So the first one is this one here. Now, this is a really interesting piece of content. It's on a guy called Charlie Mullins. Now, one of the reasons I think this performs so well is because, firstly, Charlie Mullins is quite a controversial character. Politically, can be very controversial, but without doubt, a brilliant entrepreneur. And he built a business called Pimlico Plumbers, and he sold it for £140 million. And he used a very simple principle, which was that he basically had higher standards than his competitors. He had a better product than his competitors, and he charged 30% more for it. And that's the principle, right? So it's an extremely simple principle that delivered outsized returns. And that's why I thought this concept would be interesting from an angle point of view. So the first thing you have to think about is the angle, but also because it's him, right? This naturally got a lot of attention from people that don't agree with his political views. I haven't said anywhere in the post whether I agree with him politically or not. All I'm saying here is that he's a genius entrepreneur, but a lot of people, if you look at the comments, will be talking about how they don't agree with a lot of his views. That's absolutely fine. I don't mind them doing that because all they're doing is racking up comments, which are going to boost my post performance in the algorithm. If we come into this, we can actually see how LinkedIn's algorithm works. One of the things LinkedIn does, I'm not going to go through this entire classification pipeline in this video, but one of the things LinkedIn does to determine whether your post is going to get seen by more people is it monitors engagement signals. One of those signals is comments, the others are of course likes, reposts, and also dwell time, so how long people spend on the post. And people commenting about this guy's political opinion is naturally going to rack up the comments on the content, getting it seen by more and more people. And you can see the results pretty crazy, 968,000 impressions. You obviously get the old ones that say looks like Rod Stewart as well. So there are plenty of opportunities to get people to comment on this post which don't directly tie to the message of the post itself. Right? So the message of the post is actually that if you want to grow a pretty successful business, the really simple thing you can do: build a better product than your competitors and charge slightly more from it. And actually business can be simplified to something as simple as that, right? So there's a message in the post, but there are a lot of opportunities for people to comment on the content around the message. So when you're creating content, you want to think about how you can almost bait people into commenting with things that don't directly tie to the message. Having eye-catching creative is one of those ways. having a slightly controversial character potentially is another one that you could use. So that's one of the big reasons this has performed so well. Honestly, I didn't actually expect when I published this for it to be my top performer ever. It's certainly not the most insightful or intellectual or deeply educational piece of content I've ever published, but that just shows you that it's not necessarily all about providing value. There are plenty of other things to come around it as well. It is worth mentioning that the value in this post has been commented on as well. Lots of people saying, it's a great model. They agree with what he's done. So there is certainly value contained within the text, but a big reason why this would have performed so well is simply because of the angle and the type of character that I was talking about. My second one is actually a video. Now, this was published at a time where video content was blowing up on LinkedIn. It was LinkedIn were testing their own TikTok-like video feed, and there was a massive shortage in supply of videos for that feed. So lots and lots of demand, lots of people scrolling that video feed, but not many people publishing video. So if you were publishing video content, you could guarantee you were going to get actually pushed in front of lots and lots of people's feeds. So the reason this did so well is because I was using a trending format at the right time. So that's another thing you need to do. Again, you'll notice it's not necessarily the most educational or deeply valuable thing I've ever shared, but it was posted at the right time. It's a case of being in the right place at the right time and tapping into a trending format on LinkedIn. The most reliable format for getting views is text plus image, but there have been times over the last 12, 18 months or so where other formats such as videos or carousels have been really popular. So you need to be monitoring your feed to understand what types of content are getting outsized views and then play into those. One thing I did that was really smart here, though, is the caption is complementary to the video. A mistake I see a lot of people making is they will say exactly the same thing in the text as they say in the video. Huge wasted opportunity. You always want your copy and your creative, whether it's a carousel, a video, or an image, to be complementary. So each one would make sense on their own, but adds value and makes sense together as well. So here, what I've said in the caption is what the modern CEO now looks like. In the video, I'm talking through some stats around personal branding, explaining how to actually build your personal brand. So I've got a complementary caption to the video, and it was simply posted at a time where video content was performing really well. It's quite a simple one. This one performed well because, firstly, it's widely appealing. So this hook here, 99% of people shouldn't start a business, and encouraging people to do so is toxic. That is something that pretty much anyone on LinkedIn could engage with. So it's not hyper specific to just my niche. So if I was trying to get leads, I probably wouldn't share a post like this. This was purely for visibility and engagement. If I was posting about leads, I would post something that is a lot more specific to founders, execs, the people that are actually going to buy from me. Whereas this content is more widely appealing. Anyone, whether they're in a job or whether they have a business themselves, could engage with this post, which, well, is anyone on LinkedIn, anyone on the planet, potentially. So it's a huge total addressable market, if you like, for the content, something anyone could engage with. It's also quite a bold opinion. So I'm saying 99% of people shouldn't start a business. That's very specific and extreme. I do believe this, but I could have said most people shouldn't start a business, and a lot of people would have just said, well, yeah, they wouldn't really have garnered any interest whatsoever. But the fact I'm saying a very specific number and an extreme number, it sits on the end of an extreme continuum and gets attention from people instantly. I also say the word toxic, which is quite a strong word to use in this context. So the fact that I've got two extremes here, the extremity of the word toxic and the extremity of saying 99% of people, is very polarizing. You'll notice in the comments of this, a lot of people are either agreeing or strongly disagreeing with what I'm saying here. They either completely agree or they completely disagree. And that creates a lot of conversation in the content. I happen to have shared a photo with another highly known entrepreneur, which is Lara Costa, which is a kind of small layer on top. I don't think that's exactly why this post has performed well. But again, having a piece of creative that's going to grab attention. Lara has probably at the time had 100,000 odd followers when I posted this content. So that's 100,000 people that potentially would recognize her in someone else's post and be interested in the post purely because she's in it. So actually sharing photos with other people that are well known can help your performance. I don't think that's the sole reason this would have performed. I think this hook is the biggest thing why this has done well. The third one, again, it's all about the angle here. So this is quite unexpected because this isn't something that typically you see. It's a contrarian opinion. I've built a team of 19 remote employees. Most people that have built teams of remote employees, that certainly that are that size, probably have quite regimented timesheets that they're going through. I've never asked my team to fill out a timesheet. So it's quite a contrarian opinion. It's not expected. And that's really important. You'll notice a lot of the trends here are all around the angle of the post. That's actually the first thing you've got to get right when you produce a piece of content. If I scroll out to this, the formula for writing viral posts every single time, the very first thing is finding the angle. So there are lots of ways to say the same thing, and the same thing can be very interesting or very boring depending on how it's angled. Some interesting angles that you can use are making things contrarian, surprising, unexpected, or invoking curiosity. And if you master these 4 angles, you're going to be able to turn ideas that your competitors post about and are mundane into really interesting things that capture a lot of conversation from the industry. This one's a contrarian opinion because it's not something that most people do. You could say it's also a bit surprising and unexpected as well, and that creates curiosity. So I'm kind of getting all of these in one here. This also speaks into the kind of culture that is on LinkedIn, where it's a very favorable to employee kind of culture on LinkedIn. If you take the employee's side or not the boss's side on LinkedIn, you are bound to get engagement. If you are kind of bashing employees, for example, it's never going to work on LinkedIn. It's not that kind of culture. It's a culture where people want to be uplifted and empowered, and almost taking the employee side and making them feel like they're okay. They're the ones that maybe are hard done by having to do things like timesheets. That captures a lot of engagement. Again, this was quite a trending conversation at the time as well. It's work from home in a period just after we all know what happened 2020 to 2023. So it's a topical conversation. This was posted in 2024. It's a very topical conversation. And again, at the end, I've taken quite a bold opinion on it. It's not a work from home issue, it's a leadership issue. That's going to polarize people, but that's also something that people will latch onto and comment on. So you can see, even if we just look at like even the first comment here, trusting your team to do what they're good at is a superpower. Trust, right? That's kind of speaking into this. It's all about the leadership. So people are latching on to these things. This is another one that will get people to comment around it. If you can't trust them to work from home, why do you hire them? These sorts of like one-line takes are what people are going to latch onto in their comments. It gives people something to inspire a comment, and you want to make it easy for people to comment. Remember, comments drive up impressions. So if you make it really difficult for people to think about things to comment, you're not going to get many. This post makes it really easy for people to think of a comment and share it, and that's why it's got over 240 of them. It's got pretty eye-catching creative. Clearly, it's the kind of thing that resonated with people enough for them to repost it as well. These reposts will be one of the reasons it's driven up so many impressions. The comments, whilst the comments are good, it's not usual that you'll get 178,000 impressions for 240 comments. Certainly not at the time of recording anyway. Whereas 77 reposts will be one of the key things that has driven this up. That suggests there's a lot of people agreeing with this sentiment. So it's a very agreeable post that people will relate to, and therefore repost to essentially say, I agree with this in their feed. This one, it's a video of Obama. It's a very notable figure. Pretty much anyone on LinkedIn is going to know who President Obama is, or was President Obama. People are going to recognize this face and be instantly hooked into it. So here I'm taking a familiar character and latching onto something that they've already shared. And it's really simple. This doesn't overcomplicate it. Again, follows the trend of a lot of pieces of content that I've shared so far. It's not groundbreaking value. I'm not like teaching people the entire blueprint. And I have some piece of content where I've taught so much value, provided so much value, but here it can actually just be the simple things that get a lot of engagement very quickly. This has racked up 224 reposts, which will be one of the biggest reasons why it's performed so well. Again, it's relevant to everyone. Learning how to get stuff done is something that will benefit you, whether you are 18, an intern heading into your first proper role, your first full-time role, whether you are the 65-year-old CEO that's been in business 20 years and everything in between. This post makes sense to those people and is something they can relate to. So again, the total addressable market of this piece of content is really, really significant. It's also framed around career advice. That's quite a key word. So there's keyword usage within this post. Career advice is something that pretty much everyone on LinkedIn wants. That's kind of what the platform is for, to enhance your career. So having the words career advice in here is something that's going to hook a lot of people in. It's going to perform well just because of the keywords that are used. Again, another video here, I believe. I won't go into too much detail on this because we kind of covered the video side of things. This was posted at a similar time to the last video, and again, one of the same reasons why it's performed so well. This volume of impressions for this level of engagement is not normal. So this was posted at a time where videos were just performing. Again, it's got complementary copy and video, so you can consume either the video or either the copy and still engage. You don't have to consume both, but if you do, you're going to get even more value. This one is where it gets slightly more educational. So that last video was fairly educational, but this here is more savable. This has performed well because it's the kind of thing that people will save and come back to. So it's a small piece of very specific and easy to implement value. That's a really important part of sharing educational content. If you want it to perform well, you need to make sure that it's easy to implement. So condensing the information you're sharing into systems, frameworks, lists, processes makes it easier, firstly, to consume and digest, but then also implement. And that means people are more likely to save it and they're more likely to get results from it, and therefore they're more likely to engage in the content or even come back to you for more content like this in the future. The creative is one of the biggest things that's led to this post performing so well. So the creative here is something that you can save and come back to, because this is extremely implementable. I'm making that word up, but it's not the kind of thing that you're going to implement right now. So you would save this, you might bookmark it, or you can actually save a post on LinkedIn and come back to it later. If you're doing that, you're likely just to like it or leave a comment or repost at the same time because of the value it holds. So the creative here has done a really good job. I could have just listed all of these out, 14 ways to build a personal brand. I could have just listed them out. I could have just listed them in the copy and not shared an image. But sharing an image that packages it in this way with text that complements the image creates a very savable post. I also lead with a hook that most people understand and have heard before. Lots of people say, just post, just post, just post. It's terrible advice. So by quoting that, I'm kind of feeding into something that they've been told loads of times before, and I'm making them think, oh, maybe that's wrong, which it is. So I'm starting to create this sense that maybe they're doing the wrong thing, or maybe what they've been told before isn't right, and that creates curiosity, which hooks them in. I then actually rehook throughout the post. So I've said, yes, posting helps, but here's what 80% of people don't realize. What do you think when you read that? You think, what don't they realize? You're asking yourself a question and you want to find out. So we've opened another, what we call a curiosity loop. Again, I say, here are all the proven ways to build a personal brand. That opens the curiosity loop. You're now asking, okay, I want to know what these ways are. I also said all, and I said proven. Again, very extreme, saying all of them. Proven makes it feel more reliable. Down the bottom, I then rehook again. If you're stuck wondering why your content isn't driving leads, here's why. The question you're left asking is, why is that? I want to find out. And then use this matrix to audit your strategy. Okay, but how? So constantly, I've got these rehooks throughout the whole post that are constantly opening and closing curiosity loops. And if we look at actually, if you can master the curiosity loop, which looks a little bit like this, you will master content and you will be able to get insane results. You want to continually create this cycle where people are asking themselves questions, getting the answers, but then asking more questions. And if you can get people into that infinite loop of curiosity, you're going to keep them hooked on your content and you're going to grow so fast. This one follows a giveaway trend. So this was performing ridiculously well at the time. They don't perform as well at the moment, but I still am seeing them drive insane results across our clients and across other accounts on LinkedIn. This is what we call a viral loop strategy. So here, what I've done is I've created a lead magnet. This was like an ultimate guide to building a personal brand in 2025. The first thing you're probably thinking is, that's quite jarring. That catches my eyes. It's quite annoying. It's designed to capture attention. So instantly your eyes are drawn to the post. If you're scrolling through this in the feed, you're going to be drawn to that. I'll take it off the screen as much as I can for you now. So your eyes are going to be drawn in instantly. Subtly though, it's also showing the insane amount of value that was packaged into this guide, because you can kind of see it all really quickly. You can make out some of the headlines, and people are going to really want to consume this guide to get all of the value that we've teased with this GIF. I also promote that value in the post. So this is how the viral loop strategy works. I'm talking about how much value I've packed into this, why people should read it, what it's going to give them, really hyping up the amazing insight that's contained within this guide. But then I don't do what most people do. I don't actually share the guide outright. What I say is, if you want a copy, comment me and I'll send you a link. I've also said make sure we're connected so I can send, just so that it makes it easy for me to do so. What this gets is, it gets loads and loads of people commenting me. You can see this, there are thousands of these. I think we've got, what have we got? 1,363 comments on this. So it incentivizes people to comment me. This does a couple of things. Of course, it racks up the comments on the content, driving up impressions, but also people are now seeing this in their feed and seeing everyone comment me on it, and they're wondering, what are they commenting me for? So they go in and read the post, and then they comment me, and it just drives this viral loop. What I will then do is I will respond to most of these people at the start at least and say, I've sent you the guide, and I'll send it to all of these people via DM. So that's how the viral loop strategy works. Of course, at some point it gets out of hand and you just have to end up linking the guide into the post. But you want to do that after you've got a few hundred comments first to make sure you're getting the most out of this strategy. That's why this performs so well. It's got 87,000 impressions because the comments have driven that up. This one, I think this is slightly more, no, this is actually in-depth value as well. So this, again, was posted at a time where carousels were performing particularly well. And I've gone for a slightly different approach here. I'm using the text just to promote what's inside the guide. I think I could have actually got even better results if I shared a little bit more value, or like one snappy saying or quote around personal branding or content in the copy of this post. I think I would have got even better performance. But this has performed extremely well because it's got a pretty tangible and monetary hook associated with it. This is angled in a way that appeals to people far more than just saying, here's how to build a content strategy for LinkedIn. Right, so saying things like 6-figure content strategy, giving a specific result, 24 leads a month that generates, and the fact that it's my actual strategy. This is not me saying, here's how to do something. This is me saying, here's how I do it. And there's a lot of credibility and authority that comes with saying, here's how I do it. People see it as much more valuable and much more realistic. The perceived likelihood of achievement and therefore the perceived value is far higher when you position it as how I do something versus how to do something. There's a lot of value. It's literally a step-by-step guide contained within this carousel, which is really easy to digest because of the visual nature of it, not too many words on one page. And I have literally given away the full blueprint. So it's a really simple piece of content for people to consume and get value from. And then the final one out of my top 10. This, again, is, you'll notice, not the craziest piece of value that I've ever shared. This post has been done so many times now. I'd like to think I was one of the first to do this. But this is about the Pret A Manger CEO's career journey. Again, a career journey is something that would resonate with anyone on LinkedIn, from the intern in their first role to the CEO that's been doing this for 60 years. Anyone on LinkedIn could resonate with this. I've also included a personal take. I always try and do this in posts that are a little bit more universal, because if you just share that, that doesn't really, as in if I just shared the highlighted bit, it doesn't really add any like personal brand equity. It doesn't really help my personal brand. It gets lots and lots of eyeballs, but it doesn't really do anything for my personal brand. But including a personal opinion and a bit of advice around it at the end here adds a little bit of weight, right? It gets people thinking a little bit more. People might follow me for more quick takes like this. So there's actually a bit of personal brand equity that is contained within that. So really important when you do these slightly lighter, more generalist posts that anyone could engage with and maybe have naturally less authority than a value-heavy piece of content, you always want to try and include some sort of personal opinion or takeaway so there is some personal brand equity in the piece of content. And those are the top 10 pieces of content that I've published, which collectively have generated over 2.2 million impressions for me and definitely have driven some leads as well for the business. So there'll be ROI on the pieces of content that I've shared here. Some of the key themes that you'll notice throughout these are, firstly, it's not always the most value-heavy content that performs well. If you're looking purely for eyeballs, actually keeping content slightly lighter and easier to engage with can do a lot better. I don't recommend doing that all the time. Probably only about 40% of the time I do this content that was purely engineered towards getting bulk awareness. The other 40% of the time I'm doing a lot heavier authority-based content that I don't really care if it gets lots of views. I'm just focused on building trust. And then the remaining 20%, I'm doing conversion-based content, which is going to get people into my funnel. So an authority-based piece of content would be something like this one here, just post on LinkedIn, and I shared that matrix. A conversion piece of content would be something like this guide that I shared, which I linked to or got people to comment in order to get access to. But a lot of these, certainly this top one, number 3, number 4, number 5 are all purely designed to generate awareness. And that's absolutely fine because you need eyeballs, you need views in order to then build trust with the people that know you exist. So that's fine. You just don't want to do it all the time. The other things you'll notice are that in all of these, the copy is complementary to the creative. So you're not saying exactly the same thing in the text as you are in the image or the carousel or the video. You want to say things that make sense on their own. So if you removed one or the other, they would still make sense and still provide value, but put together, they create even more value. The angle is also a really, really important one. So having the right angle can make an otherwise mundane idea really, really interesting. And the final thing is to make sure you're constantly opening and closing curiosity loops. If you understand how to create curiosity loops and then to fulfill the desire that people have once you've opened that curiosity and reopen the curiosity again, you're going to keep people hooked on your content and they will feel like they have to come back for more every single time. So those are my top 10 performers. Hopefully you've learned a thing or two about how to create engaging content from this. As I said, this tool is Scripe, which is an amazing tool for building a personal brand and streamlining the content creation process. I probably save about 10 hours a week in my content creation process by using this tool. It's not just the analytics it has, but it also has calendar features so you can schedule your content directly in this. You can get inspiration from top performing pieces of content. You can even write content that actually sounds like you using this tool and its AI features. And if you head to the link in the description, there is a code KUROGO25. You click the link and use the code KUROGO25. That's KUROGO25. It's going to give you $25 off your first month and you can try this. I think it's only pound 16 a day or something. So this tool is well worth it if you want to save yourself a lot of time and actually get better results from creating your content, because you have such in-depth analytics like the ones we've run through today. And if you enjoyed this video, as always, please do like and subscribe and support the channel. It lets me know that I should create more content just like this because it's providing value to you.